What we're going to be doing is a style study. This is a good way of practicing facial drawing and understanding facial features and where to place them, but it's also a good way if you like a particular show or an art style from like comic book, manga, anime, video game, movie, whatever it is. This is a good way to learn it and kind of like see behind the scenes as to what's happening. So the approach for this kind of exercise is to do a very simple mannequin breakdown of whatever style it is that you're drawing. So you can see here, I have a picture. This is the character Faye, and I really like the art style for Cowboy Bebop. That's like a good way to start. And just ask yourself like, okay, what art style do you like, or which show do you want to kind of learn the art style from? So you can see it is very, very stripped down, and you'll notice that other than the circle, everything is pretty angular. This is a good way to also train you guys to start simplifying things so that when you see something complicated or something maybe like overbearing, you're able to instantly kind of simplify it and streamline it. So this is going to be like the process of what you guys are going to do. You guys are going to find a reference, and this can be any kind of art style you want. The next part is to then analyze and trace your reference. And then the third phase is you're going to try to replicate what you traced by observation. You're going to freehand it. Feel free to then go all out and paint the whole thing again. And this one is for color observation. This one is eyeballing the colors. So I did not eye drop the reference. What you're trying to do is trust your eyes and trust your understanding of color theory and how it works. And this is your goal. Your goal is to try to make it as close as possible to your reference, but have these different stages. You're trying to work on your observational skills and how well you are at picking out the details by eye. So feel free to find your own image. I'm gonna do a study of Spike from, again, Cowboy Bebop. I'm gonna lower the opacity so that it's easier to kind of see my drawing instead of the image. So this should be somewhat familiar if you guys have drawn faces or characters' heads before, but we're gonna try to look for the cranium. What I like to look for is roughly the top of the head. You can't really see where the top of his head is, but I know that he has puffy hair, which means that it's sticking up probably more than usual. So I'm not gonna have it be right at the tip of his hair, but instead I'm gonna put it a little bit lower. The other part that I will look for is kind of where the back of his head is. I can see his ear is over here, and I can see that his neck is over here. The other part is I'm looking for where his forehead is, or kind of where the eye socket is over here. So I'm combining 1, 2, 3 elements to track where his cranium is roughly going to be. So we got the cranium. The next part is I'm going to simplify the face shape. For facial observations, there are certain bony landmarks that are useful to keep an eye out for. That's your eyebrow, your brow bone, your cheekbone, the points of your chin, and then the jawbone. And so it's kind of like connect the dots basically. And then the next part is I'm going to just make a general guess as to where his forehead or his hairline is going to be. Your face is broken down into thirds. So you have your hairline, brow, nose, and then your chin. When you get into cartooning or stylization, people tend to actually shorten that hairline. So that's why his hairline is probably somewhere here. And now I'm gonna analyze where the center line is going to be. Good place to map it out is in between the brow, kind of the center of the nose, and then center of the chin. Now it's starting to feel very three-dimensional. That center line helps carve out a volume and structure for your face. And then if you want to, you can create what we call the eye mask for the face. And I'll quickly just draw it so you guys can see what it might look like. So if you feel it on your own face, like I'm feeling it on my own face right now, that's what your eye mask is. And then I'm gonna just use the corner of his eyes to track roughly where his eye line is going to be. So for a nose, just as a quick reminder, we simplify it as a triangle type of shape. So for this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna simplify it as a triangle. I'm just going to also trace how they've drawn his nose, and then I'm gonna just use a straight line to mark where his mouth is. And I'm gonna do the same thing where the ear is again using straight lines. And then this is the part that probably is the most important, or you're gonna feel like it's the most important. That's the eye shape. To very simplify what an eye looks like, it's made up of 3 planes, kind of like a top plane and then a bottom plane. And it's made up of 6 different angles. So as an example, if you look at Spike, I would say that there's one curve here towards the tear duct. There's a top plane up here, and then the back plane towards the corner of his eye. So that's 3 planes. For the bottom plane, we got tear duct again, bottom of the lid, and then we got corner of the eye. And hopefully you'll kind of notice that our brow, eye level, nose plane, mouth plane, and chin, and hairline should all be kind of going in the same trajectory. Your brow line should not be like going in this way, and then your chin be turning in this way. That's how you get very skewed and warped faces. The last thing that I like to include is just the neck, and I'm gonna trace the shoulders as well, where his shoulders are. Let's see. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Feels structured, feels believable. It's gonna feel very robotic. Like when you look at this, you're like, man, that looks janky. And that's kind of okay, because it's missing a lot of what makes it come to life. But that's not what we're trying to worry about. We're trying to worry about the structure underneath it and trying to learn from it. We are now going to replicate what we just traced and broke down. Basically just redraw exactly what you did. So there's 2 ways of doing it. You can have your reference and your breakdown on top, so you can kind of look at both at the same time. You can turn off your reference if you feel like you're having trouble with it. You can just only use the breakdown and just copy the breakdown. If you want to give yourself a challenge, then turn off the breakdown and only use your reference and see if you can do it again, but by eye. Now that you've broken it down and you understand somewhat a little bit of what the structure is and how it's working, see if you can do it again, but without tracing over it. And I would say try to follow the same steps that you had when you did the breakdown. So that's why I'm going to start with the cranium. If you are done the copy version, what I want you to look for now is overlay them on top of each other and see how far off you are. Are you close? Be really strict and kind of critical with how you're comparing the two, because this is how you learn as to like what you need to adjust. If you notice that like you draw your eyes too far apart, then keep a mental note of that as you draw more and more faces in the future. So it's a little bit of like a challenge. See how close you can get to your trace over. If you're enjoying the video so far, consider supporting us as we make free arts education. You can join our Patreon, as that will allow you access to special member perks like critiques and classes. So I duplicated my observational one, right? I'm gonna overlay it. Oh, I'm so close with the circle. Oh my goodness. And I'm gonna try to get it as close as I can in terms of like the size. And I'm gonna maybe lock transparency and paint it. I'm gonna just see what is off. I can see that I have a lot off. My face shape is there, but my eyes and my placement of my eyes are really off. So this is what I'm gonna use to adjust it. So now that I can see what's off, I'm gonna make those changes on this one. So I'm just gonna keep going with my observation. So I have made all the adjustments, corrected them. It's still not gonna be perfect, but it looks pretty close. So now that I've got the base drawing, I'm going to add in all the hair and the eyebrows and all the details, and I'm gonna do it on a brand new layer. I know the goal of this is to learn the style, but hopefully you can learn something as well on the other sides of drawing principles, like line weight, shape design. All those kind of things are useful when it comes to character designs or just even illustration in general. Like there's a lot of things that you can technically glean from that won't make it look like you're copying the art style or the artist, but you're more of like implementing it into your own approach. And a little tip on observation, look for alignments, look for where things match up. So I'm looking at this part of the hair and like where it lines up in the drawing, and I can see that I'm pretty off. So I'm gonna just scoot it over so it lines up with how it is in the reference. Yeah, close enough. Pay attention to things like positive and negative space. That will help with keeping you on track of like how close you are and replicating the shapes, especially the bigger shapes. So yes, there's those little tiny hair pieces that I have to draw, but I'm trying to pay attention to the overarching larger shapes to make sure that I'm following the reference as close as I can. So now that the line drawing is finished and it's cleaned up and it's all ready, it's time for me to do a color study. This is great for if you're ever wanting to get into painting or background studies or just observational drawing in general and you want to improve on it. This kind of really tests your core 3 aspects of coloring, which is hue, so color selection, value, how dark and light something is, and saturation being, well, how saturated something is, so how dull or bright or vibrant the color is. So I am trying to get a color figured out for the background because colors influence one another. Something might appear really light, but then the moment we color something dark around it, that light color might appear even lighter than we initially thought. So in this case, I kind of picked the overall value and tone of the background, because as you'll see, right now the skin tone appears pretty light, and it is, to be fair, pretty light, but because now we have a black background or a darker background, that skin tone is probably not as bright as we think it is. So if you ever want to follow along with this project, I like to stick with a hue, saturation, and value color wheel, so an HSV. Keeps it, again, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So I start off with the hair first. And when I look at the hair, the initial color that stands out to me is that it's green. And when I first see it, it's like, okay, it looks a little bit like a lime green. It's not like super neon green, which it probably means that on the hue side, so the coloring on the outside of the triangle, it's probably gonna lean more towards a yellow. And I want to give the biggest piece of advice when doing color studies like this is that it's not going to be perfect right off the bat. The more you do this, obviously, the better you'll get at color picking and observing colors, but it's okay if you're like, you know, this seems close enough, but I don't quite know for sure if it's the right color or if it's perfect. You'll see later on, once I get the whole entire figure colored in, I realized that the hair color, I believe I made it a bit too bright, so I darkened it just a little bit. And so it's like these minor adjustments, it's okay to have them. So when you zoom out, you can clearly see already that it's darker, but even though I can notice it and I can tell, I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna leave it for now. I'll fix it afterwards. I like to break up the different components of the figure into different layers. So when I need to make the adjustments, I can just lock transparency on the layer and then make a big sweeping swoosh with my brush and not have to really worry about affecting the colors. Now, skin tone is one of those that we can get very picky about. Just like eyes, we tend to be pretty picky about how skin looks and how accurate we can get. And you can see here I'm kind of like picking around with the colors, seeing which one's working, which one's not, because before I was zoomed in and so I only saw my own drawing. So I think I kind of like zoomed out and saw in the reference and was like, you know what, I think I might have made them too yellow, so I'm gonna lean it a little bit closer to the red side of the color wheel, brighten it up a little bit more, and increase the saturation. Now when it comes to shadows for skin, it does get cooler, but if you go right to the blues, it actually will feel too cool. In order to cheat that, you lean the color wheel closer to red and then you desaturate it a lot so that it starts appearing a little bit purple. And then once it kind of looks like a purplish type of a red color, then you adjust the value of it. And so that's essentially what I did for the neck shadow coloring down there. And when I'm doing these observational drawings, I'm constantly going back and forth between the painting and the reference. So that's why you'll see sometimes when I'm filling in the drawing, I'm zoomed in so that the color application is clean and that it's all properly applied. But then once it's blocked in, I'll zoom out and I'll take some quick glances between my reference and my drawing itself to check whether or not it's looking correct. The more you do this, you'll start to get a better handle as to which to adjust: the hue, the value, and the saturation. So now that I've blocked in the entire figure, this is like the perfect time to zoom out and look at the reference and just dart your eyes. Take a quick glance between the reference and your own. It's pretty quick judgment calls. You can immediately tell, it's like, okay, the hair on the bottom, the shadow part, that definitely looks darker. And I clearly can also tell that the upper part of his hair is also way too bright on my end. So I'm going to darken it a little bit more, and I'm going to do this for the whole entire thing. I'm just zooming out, looking at both of them, and comparing parts of it, and make the adjustments needed. This is one of my favorite parts. This is the part where I basically check my answers. And I love this because it's like a magic trick. It's really satisfying seeing that you've gotten the colors picked correctly. And just pay attention to how much the color wheel picker moves. And you'll notice that it doesn't really move too much in terms of like the value and saturation. And this is kind of like the reason why you do this exercise. Both the drawing study and the color study. It's to show yourself what you need to improve on. And the other thing too is that this is a great way to learn on how people in the industry draws or how they pick their colors. And that's kind of it for this study, and this is how I do it. This is a little peek behind the scenes on how I tend to approach just coloring in general. Join a virtual class in seconds and learn live from professional artists. Enjoy weekly assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork so you can create like a fearless illustrator. If you learned something new, please like and share this with a fellow art nerd. If you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe. Here's a couple other videos you can check out next.